There's another play testing of the decks. We're going to do Warrior of Light, Toph the First Metalbender, and Mikey and Don, Party Planners. Toph's opening hand is, well, Toph, Forest, Plains, Rite of Flourishing, Plains, Thriving Grove, and Solid Ground. Warrior of Light is Tella, Titus, Graha, Mountain, Sephiroth, Balam Garden, and Guadasalem. And Mikey is Turtles in Time, Chrome Dome, Forest, Rain Slicked Copse, Northampton Farm, Bespoke Bow, and Donatello. Toph ended up winning the roll-off, and she's going to draw into Inspiring Call. I normally have the lands off screen, and I show them when I tap them, but if Toph earthbends anything, I'm going to put it onto the battlefield. And she's going to start with playing a Thriving Grove. It's going to come into play tapped, and we'll say green and red. We're going to pass the turn to Mikey, who will draw into Turtle Tracks. Mikey will play a Rain Slicked Copse. It'll come into play tapped. And we'll pass the turn to the Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light will draw into Garnet. Warrior of Light will play the Balam Garden, Seed Academy. Comes into play tapped and pass the turn. So Toph will draw into Sunbaked Canyon. She's going to play a Plains and doesn't have any turn 2 plays, so we're going to pass the turn to Mikey. Mikey's going to draw into a Turtle Lair. Mikey's going to play a Forest. It's going to tap both their lands and cast Chrome Dome. Then we'll pass the turn to Warrior of Light, which will draw into Clive's Hideaway. We're going to play Guadasalem. It ends up entering tapped. And we will pass the turn to Toph. Toph's going to draw into Flopsy, Boomy's buddy. Toph is going to play a Forest. Then we're going to tap for a green and 2 others. And we're going to play Toph the Blind Bandit. So when she enters, we're going to Earthbend 2. Let's Earthbend our Plains. And Toph's power is equal to the number of +1 counters on lands you control. So Toph's going to pass the turn to Mikey, who will draw into Containment Protocol. He's going to play Turtle Lair. I think we're going to tap 3 of our lands, one of them being a green. And we're going to play Turtle Tracks. So any number of target players may search the library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield under their control, then shuffle. Let's say Mikey's the only target player. So Mikey will search for an island. We'll play the island. And we'll pass the turn to Warrior of Light, who will draw into Firion Swordmaster. Warrior of Light is going to play a Mountain. And sadly, Warrior of Light has not the colors they need to cast the spells that are in hand. So they will pass the turn to Toph, who will draw into Wartime Protesters. So Toph is going to play a Plains. And we're going to tap for, we're going to tap these 3 lands plus our Earthbent land for 4 mana, 1 being a green. And we're going to cast Solid Ground. So when it enters, we're going to Earthbend 3. So I think we're going to Earthbend another land. Let's Earthbend our Forest. And then if 1 or more counters would be put on a permanent we control, that many +1 counters are put on it instead. So we'll actually Earthbend 3, but we're putting 4 counters on it. We will go to combat, and Toph will tap to attack. Let's see here. I forgot the forest was tapped already for the mana. Toph is going to attack Mikey. And her power is equal to the number of +1 counters on lands we control, which is 6. So she will attack for 6. Mikey will declare no blocks and will take 6 damage. Toph will pass to Mikey, who will draw into an island. Mikey's going to play an island. And then Mikey's going to tap 4 of their lands, 1 being a blue. And we're going to cast Donatello, Mutant Mechanic. Mikey's then going to pass the turn to the Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light will draw into Astrologian's Planisphere. Warrior of Light is then going to play Clive's Hideaway. So it's got Hideaway 4. We're going to look at the top 4 cards of our library. Exile 1 face down. And the rest go to the bottom on a random order. So the top 4 cards are, we've got Sid, Barrett, and Excalibur. I think we're going to exile Sid. So hopefully later we'll be able to use Clive's Hideaway to bring him in. So Warrior of Light is going to tap the Guadasalem for a blue and Clive's Hideaway. And we're going to cast the Astrologian's Planisphere. It's got Job Select, so we'll be creating a 1/1 colorless hero and attaching this to it. Then we will pass the turn to Toph, who will untap Upkeep and draw into the Boulder. Toph is going to play the Sun-Baked Canyon. And we're going to tap the Sun-Baked Canyon, the Forest, and the Plains. So we will lose a life because of the Sun-Baked Canyon. And we'll add a red, whatever. Most important part is tapping the Forest for a green. And we will be casting Rites of Flourishing. So at the beginning of each player's draw step, we get to draw an additional card. And each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. You know what? We're not going to tap the Sun-Baked Canyon. We're going to tap the Plains for that. That way we don't have to lose a life. When we played the Sun-Baked Canyon, nothing happened, so that's okay. So I think we're going to go to combat. Toph is going to attack. Let's have her attack. Let's have her attack the Warrior of Light this time. Coming at it for 6. Warrior of Light is going to declare no blocks. Toph will then pass the turn to Mikey, who will draw into an Arcane Signet. And because of Rites of Flourishing, can also draw another card into an island. Rites of Flourishing allows us to play 2 lands on our turn. So Mikey's going to play Northampton Farm and Island. We're going to tap the Turtle Lair in Northampton Farm. So we can play the Arcane Signet. We're going to tap an island for a blue and 2 others to cast Containment Protocol. And we're going to put that on Toph, the Blind Bandit. So it won't untap during its controller's untap step. Then we're going to tap Donatello, Mutant Mechanic, and we're going to put 3 +1 counters on target artifact. So we're going to put 3 counters on Chrome Dome. Then we will be going to combat, and we're going to tap Chrome Dome to attack Toph for 4. Toph has no blockers, so Toph will take 4 damage. Mikey's going to pass the turn to Warrior of Light, who will draw into Sid. And because of Rites of Flourishing, we'll draw again into Bard's Bow. And it looks like Warrior of Light's still having no luck with lands, so they will tap 3 lands, one being a green. And we will cast Bard's Bow. It's got Job Select, so we'll get to create a hero token and attach this to it. The Astrologians thingy that the first hero has there will trigger. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell and whenever you draw your 3rd card each turn, put a +1 counter on this creature. So we'll get to put a +1 counter on her for the non-creature spell. We will go to combat and we're going to tap that hero and attack Toph because she's wide open for 2. So Toph's going to untap, upkeep, and draw into a forest and a thriving heath, thanks to Rites of Flourishing. And I'm thinking we will play both those lands. Unfortunately, Thriving Heath comes into play tapped, or say a white, and we'll say it gives us a red. I think we're going to tap these 3 lands. And the Thriving Grove for a red. As well as our plains over there. And we're going to cast Wartime Protesters. I think we're going to tap the Wartime Protesters. We'll go to combat, tap them because they have haste, and we will attack Mikey. We're going to pass the turn to Mikey, who will draw into Buzzbots and an island. And we're going to play that island as our land. I think we're going to tap 2 islands. And we're going to bring in the Buzzbots. So we're going to tap Donatello for to put 3 +1 counters on a creature. Let's put them on the Buzzbots. Yeah. Then we'll tap 4 lands, one being a blue, one being a green. And we're going to cast the commander, Mikey and Don, Party Planners. So with Mikey and Don, we could look at the top card for library anytime. Ooh, high score. We could play lands and cast mutants, ninjas, or turtles from the top. High score is none of the above, so I guess we're going to be passing the turn to Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light is going to draw into Gothmog and Sephiroth. Still no lands for Warrior of Light. Who shuffled this deck? Jeez. I don't think we'll do any attacks, so we're going to go to our end step where we're going to have to discard 2 because we have 9 cards, and we're going to discard Tella and Titus. Then we will pass the turn to Toph, who will untap, upkeep, and draw into a Plains and Storm of Memories. So I think we're going to play the Plains for our turn. And we will tap these 4 lands. Hold on a second. Yes, we will tap these 4 lands. So one of them being a green. And we're going to cast the Boulder Ready to Rumble. Unfortunately, he's not an ally, so he doesn't get the +1 counter for Wartime Protesters or haste. But that's okay. Then we will tap our Sunbaked Canyon for a red, so we will lose a life. We'll tap the Thriving Grove for a green, the Plains for a white, and the Forest for a green. And we will cast Toph, first Metalbender. So she is an ally. So she's going to get a +1 counter from the Wartime Protesters and haste till end of turn. So when she goes to get the +1 counter, Solid Ground will trigger, and we're going to put an extra +1 counter on her. So she gets 2. So let's go to combat, and we will attack Warrior of Light with... Let's see here. Wow, they kept blockers back. Nuts. Okay. So let's attack the Warrior of Light with Toph, the first Metalbender. And... Forgot to put tapped counters on my land. You know what? Let's play it safe this round. So we'll have Toph, the first Metalbender, just do an attack to the Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light will declare no blocks this time round. So it'll be taking 5 commander damage from Toph. So we'll go to the end step, and I think Toph is going to Earthbend 2. And she will Earthbend... I don't know. Let's Earthbend our Thriving Heath. So Solid Ground will trigger, and it will get an extra counter, so it has 3 counters. And that's the end of the turn. We're passing to Mikey, who will draw into High Score and Guada Salem. And I think Mikey's going to play Guada Salem for his turn, entering tapped. I think Mikey's going to tap 3, 1 being a green, and we're going to play High Score. Then we're going to tap Don. Let's see what the top card is here. Oh, it's not a turtle or a land. That's okay. Let's tap Don, and we're going to put 3 +1 counters on the Buzzbots, but because it's a creature, we're going to be putting 4 +1 counters on it. And that is thanks to High Score. So... I'm thinking we go to attacks. We're going to use the Buzzbots to attack Toph in the air. It's got Vigilance, so we don't have to tap it. And it'll be doing 8 damage to Toph. Mikey will pass the turn to the Warrior of Light, who will draw into Ishgard and a Dragoon's Lance. We're going to play Ishgard as our land per turn, but it comes into play tapped. And I think this is no good, but we're going to discard at the end of our turn Sid, because we have too many cards in hand. So we're going to pass the turn to Toph, who will draw into Aang Shelter and Sun Warriors. I think Toph is going to tap 3 lands, 1 for a green and 2 others, to play Inspiring Call. So we're going to draw a card for each creature we control with a +1 counter on it, and we have 4 creatures with +1 counters. And they will gain indestructible till end of turn. I think we're going to tap the Sunbaked Canyon and take a damage. And the Thriving Rove for a green, and the Thriving Heath. Yeah, the Thriving Heath. And we're going to cast Earthbending Student. So when it enters, we're going to Earthbend 2. So because of the Solid Ground, we'll get to put 3 counters on something. We'll do it to our planes over there. And land creatures have Vigilance. Wartime Protesters will trigger and put a +1 counter, but because of Solid Ground, 2 +1 counters on Earthbending Student, and he's got haste. So I think what we're going to do is We're going to attack with our plains and our forest, which both have vigilance. And we're going to attack with the boulder and Toph. And well, let's just stick it to that for now. And we're going to send, I think, the plains and forest to Mikey. And Toph and the boulder is going to go at the Warrior of Light. So on attack, the boulder will trigger. We get to Earthbend X, where X is the number of creatures you control with a power of 4 or greater. And right now we have the plains is greater, the forest is greater. Toph is, the boulder is 4 or greater, and same with wartime protesters. So that's 5 creatures. And we have Toph the blind bandit. She might be tapped. But, forgot I should leave the tap on there. She might be tapped and can't attack, but her power is greater as well. So that's six creatures. So we're going to Earthbend 6. So we actually get to put 7 counters on something. And we're going to put it on our forest. So I think Mikey's going to block the 11/11 forest with Chrome Dome. And, Chrome Dome gives other creatures +1/+0. So the Buzzbots should have done 1 extra damage to Toph. And she took 1 for the Sunbaked Canyons. Yeah, they'll block the 11/11 with Chrome Dome, but we'll let the 5 damage come through from the plains. Whereas the Warrior of Light, I think the Warrior of Light is going to... Warrior of Light is going to take the 9 damage from Toph and the boulder. So Toph will now pass the turn. At the end of her turn, at the beginning of her end step, she gets an Earthbend 2. So let's Earthbend the Thriving Heath. So it will get, because of solid ground, 3 +1 counters. So Mikey and Don, they get to go now. We're going to draw 2 cards because of Rites of Flourishing. And, Mondo Gecko and Cultivate. I think Mikey and Don are going to tap for 7 mana, 2 of them being blue. And they're going to cast Turtles in Time. So we're going to return all creatures to their owner's hands. And each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard into their library. And then each player who does draws 7 cards. And then it gets exiled. Well, that really sucks for the Earthbent lands, since they weren't exiled or destroyed, so they're going back to Toph's hand. I probably should have attacked before I did that. My bad. I could have gotten 8 damage in on Toph or the Warrior of Light, and then I could have board wiped, but oops. I messed up there, and I'm not going to take it back now because I already cleared the board. So we've got 3 mana left for Mikey. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to tap these 2 lands, 1 for a green, and we're going to tap the Arcane Signet for a green as well. And we're going to cast Cultivate. So we're going to search our library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal them, put 1 onto the battlefield tap, the other into our hand. But thanks to Rites of Flourishing, we could just play that land. So we're going to look for 2 forests. One's going into play tapped, the other one we're going to play as our land. So after that, I think Toph is not going to shuffle, but the Warrior of Light will shuffle their hand and grave into their library and draw 7 cards. So unfortunately, we had some good cards that we're going to be shuffling in, but we didn't have the land. So we're going for land. And we're drawing into Gone, Treno, the Gold Saucer, Weapon Vendor, Slash of Light, Dark Knight's Greatsword, and Vivi. Mikey's going to pass the turn to Warrior of Light, who will draw 2 cards because of Rites of Flourishing. We will draw into the Red Mage's Rapier and Gilgamesh, Master at Arms. I think we don't have very many options, so we're going to play our lands, Dark Treno and Gone, Town of Ruin. They come into play tapped. And then we're going to tap for a red, a blue, and 1 other to cast Vivi. We're hoping to cast some non-creature spells here. Ping damage is great, but we want some counters so we can get more mana. So we're going to pass the turn to Toph. Toph is going to draw into a Forest and Boomy's Feast Lecture. So after sending our Earthbend lands to our hands, we were only left with 5 lands. So we're going to play 1 land for our turn. And we're going to cast Tectonic Split for 6. 2 of them being green. We have to sacrifice as an additional cost half the lands we control rounded up. So we're going to sacrifice our Sun-Baked Canyon, our Plains, and our Forest. So then we're going to play a Forest as our second land because of Rites of Flourishing. We did that so we didn't have to sacrifice 4 lands. But now our lands have, whenever we tap it, we add 3 mana of any 1 color. So we're going to tap our Forest for 3 green, and we're going to cast Earthbending Student. And we're going to Earthbend that Forest we tapped. And because of solid ground, we will be putting 3 counters on it. So at the end of our turn, we've got to discard a lot of cards here. Very hard choice. We're going to discard Toph first Metalbender. She'll go into our command zone. And we are going to discard Boomy's Feast, Storm of Memories, Sun Warriors, Planetarium of Washi Tong, and Toph, the Greatest Earthbender. Actually, no, we're going to keep Toph, the Greatest Earthbender. We're going to discard Toph, the Blind Bandit. So then we're going to pass our turn to Mikey, who will draw into Island and definitely not a turtle. So we're going to play that island. So we're going to tap a blue and 3 others to cast Donatello. We're going to tap a green, a blue, and 2 others to cast Mikey and Don. We'll look at the top card of our library, which is a land. So we'll play that land as our second land for the turn. I think we're going to tap 2 blue and whatever to cast Mondo Gecko. And we're going to tap the Arcane Signet and an island for a blue to cast Buzzbots. We will then pass the turn to the Warrior of Light. And the Warrior of Light will draw into Stolen Uniform and Reaper's Scythe. Warrior of Light will play the Golden Saucer as a land per turn. So we're going to tap a black and 2 others And we're going to cast Reaper Scythe. So it has job select. We'll be making that hero token and attaching it to it. Because that was a non-creature spell, VV's going to trigger. We get to put a +1 counter on VV, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And so if we zero VV, we can add X mana in any combination of blue and or red where X is equal to VV's power. But we can only do that once on our turn. So we're going to do it for a red, and then we're going to tap another red and 4 others. And we're going to cast Gilgamesh, Master at Arms. So when he enters or attacks, we're going to look at the top 6 cards of our library, and we could put any number of equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield. The rest goes on the bottom. So we're going to look at the 6 cards. And we got a land, champions of whatever, Graha, a land, Albed, Salvagers, and a land. So we know where our lands are. And now our lands are going to the bottom of our deck. Hooray. Well, that's okay. Nuts. Warrior of Light's having some real bad luck. Okay, so we'll go to the end step of Warrior of Light, and the Reaper Scythe will go off, or a trigger. And we get to put a soul counter on this equipment for each player who lost life this turn, and that was 2 different players that lost life, so it'll get 2 soul counters. I also move the equipment that's not attached to anybody down, and move the creatures up. So that was the end of the turn, and we're passing to Toph, who will draw into the Cabbage Merchant and Cycle of Renewal. We're going to play a Plains and a Thriving Heath. We'll say Thriving Heath gives us a red as well as a white, but it comes into play tapped. So we're going to tap 4 of our lands. The first 2 lands, we're going to add 3 red, 3 red, and the last 2 lands will be 3 green and 3 green. So we have 6 red and 6 green mana. We're going to use 4 of the 6 green to cast. Actually, we're going to use 4 of the red. We're going to use 4 of the red to cast Wartime Protesters. Then we're going to use 4 of the green to cast the Boulder. Then for our last 2 red and last 2 green, we will be casting Toph, the Greatest Earthbender. So when she enters, we're going to Earthbend X, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast her, which is 4. So we'll get to put, because of Solid Ground, 5 counters, and we're going to put it on our forest over there. And land creatures you control have double strike. Toph also gets because she's an ally, gets a +1 counter from the Wartime Protesters, and it'll be 2 because of Solid Ground. So let's go to combat. I think what we're going to do is we are going to send let's send the forest, because it's got vigilance. We'll send it at Donatello. Yes, we'll send it at Donatello. So it's got double strike and vigilance. So Donatello's got to choose. Does it want to lose 16 life or... I think Donatello will block with Mikey and Don Party Planners. And we're going to leave it there. We'll pass the turn to Mikey and Don, who will draw into a Mona Lisa and Henchbots. I think we're going to cast, or we're going to tap 3 blue to cast Bespoke Bow. And when it enters, we're going to return another target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. We'll return the Boulder to Toph's hand. Then I think we're going to tap Donatello and put 3 counters on the Buzzbots. Then we're going to tap 2 lands. And we're going to cast Chrome Dome. We're going to sacrifice the Escape Tunnel so that target creature with power of 2 can't be blocked this turn, and we're going to have it be Mondo Gecko. So Mondo Gecko won't be able to be blocked this turn. We'll go to combat. We'll tap Mondo Gecko to attack Toph, and the Buzzbots to attack Toph. Buzzbots are going in the air, she has no reach, and Mondo Gecko can't be blocked, so that'll be Chrome Dome gives +1/+0 to the Buzzbots. So they'll be doing 5 damage, and Mondo Gecko 2 more. So when Mondo Gecko deals damage to a player, we're going to draw a card for each color among permanents we control. And we've got a green enchantment and blue, well, blue everything else, except for Chrome Dome, which is colorless. So we'll draw 2 cards, Forest and Mutant Chain Reaction. And we're going to play that Forest as our land. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to tap an island and 2 forests. And we're going to cast Mutant Chain Reaction, and we're going to destroy Tectonic Split and create a mutagen. I think we'll tap 3 more mana, and we'll bring in Definitely Not a Turtle. Then we will pass the turn to the Warrior of Light, who will draw into Thriving Heath and a Mountain. So we'll play Thriving Heath and the Mountain. Thriving Heath will come into play tapped. We'll say it gives us white and red. I think we're going to tap a red, a white, a black, or a red, a white, a blue, a green, and a black. And we will be casting the Warrior of Light. So our legendary creatures get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. I only control 1, so I guess they both get well, I'll own 2 now, so Vivi and Warrior of Light will get +2/+2. I think we'll go to combat. We're going to attack Mikey with Gilgamesh, and Mikey will declare no blocks. Well, before he declares no blocks, let's find out Gilgamesh's attack trigger. So he's attacking. We're gonna look at the top 6 cards. So Circle of Power, nope. Garnet, nope. Dancer's Chakrams, yep. Plains, nope. This dude, nope. And Island, nope. So we only ran into one equipment. So when it enters, we will be creating a hero token that's attached to this. But Gilgamesh says when you put 1 or more equipment onto the battlefield this way, you may attach one of them to a samurai. So we're going to attach the Dancer's Chakrams to Gilgamesh. So Gilgamesh is now an 8/8 with lifelink. And other commanders we control get +2/+2 and have lifelink. So, I guess Warrior of Light will too. They're dancing partners. Okay, so Don, you know what? Mikey will say no blocks, and we'll take the 8. I should say take the 10, because Warrior of Light gives legendary creatures we've got 3 of them, so +3, so 11. It would be 11 in total. Maybe that was a mistake to take the damage, maybe not. We'll find out. So think what we're going to do is VV. We will, I guess we'll do a 0 ability and we'll add 2 red. And we're going to cast Red Mage's Rapier. So it's got job select, so we'll create another hero. And because it's a non-creature spell, VV will get a +1 counter and do 1 damage to both Mikey and Toph. Okay, so we zoomed out a little bit because the board's getting pretty cluttered. That's the end of the turn. On the end step, the Reaper's Scythe will trigger, and the Reaper's Scythe is going to get 2 more counters because two opponents lost life this turn. So Toph got nerfed pretty good there, losing the Tectonic Split. So we're going to tap 2 for a green. And we're going to play the Banyan Tree. So it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. We've got an 8 over there. So it just cost us 2 green. And when we tap it, we gain 2 life and 2 green. And whenever a non-token creature you control enters, we get a +1 counter on it, and we draw a card. So we're going to tap it. We gain 2 life. We're going to get 2 green mana. And we are going to tap one of our lands, this Plains. And we're going to cast Cycle of Renewal. So we're going to sack a land and search our library for 2 basic ones, put it onto the battlefield tapped. So let's sack the Plains that we tapped. And let's look for 2 lands. So we're going to look for Forest and Plains, which will come into play tapped. And we'll go to combat. The Forest, the 8/8 Forest has Vigilance and Double Strike, so I think we're going to be attacking with that. And we're going to attack... You know what? We're going to attack the Warrior of Light. And the Warrior of Light is going to block with their hero token. I think we're going to leave it at that. So we'll pass the turn to Mikey, who will draw into Sewer Valence Scam and an island. We're going to play the island. And I think we're going to tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to tap 6 lands. And we're going to bring back Mikey and Don. Then we will tap 4. We're going to play Henchbots. So when it enters, we're going to exile target tap creature an opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield. We're going to exile Gilgamesh. Then I think we will go to combat. I'm going to tap an island to crack the mutagen. And we're going to put a +1 counter on Buzzbots. Then we're going to tap Donatello, and we're going to put 3 +1 counters on Buzzbots. Chrome Dome gives the Buzzbots +1/+0. They have Vigilance, so we're going to attack with the Buzzbots, doing 9 damage to the Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light doesn't have reach or flying or anything. They do have the Bard's Bow, but it's not attached to anybody. So Mikey will pass the turn to the Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light will draw into the Regalia and Ninja's Blades. So Warrior of Light is going to tap 2 mana, 1 being a white. And we're going to cast Slash of Light. It deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control plus the number of equipment you control to target creature. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to do it to the Buzzbots. That's a non-creature spell, so Vivi gets a +1 counter, and we're going to ping Mikey and Toph for 1. Then we're going to tap for a black and 2 others. And we're going to cast Ninja Blades. So it has job select. We'll be creating another hero token. And it's a non-creature spell, so Vivi will get a +1 counter and ping both Mikey and Toph. Then we're going to tap 4 lands, 1 being a white. And we're going to cast Weapons Vendor. So when he enters, we get to draw a card. We will draw into Sid. We will then, I think what we're going to do is, we're going to do the 0 of Vivi. And we're going to say blue. And we're going to use 1 of that mana to do Stolen Uniform. We're going to choose Warrior of Light and the Dancer's Chakrams. You know what? We're going to use our, instead we'll choose our hero token over here and the Dancer's Chakrams. So we will gain control of the equipment, attach it to the creature. If we lose control of the equipment, we attach, it's on it. If it's attached, we unattach it, but we own the equipment, so it's okay. Then we're going to go to combat. At the beginning of combat, we're going to tap the Balam Gardens to pay for the Weapons Vendor. At the beginning of combat, we could pay 1. If you control an equipment, which we do. So we're going to attach the equipment to target creature we control. So we're going to attach the Ninja Blades to the Warrior of Light. We're going to tap the hero and the Warrior of Light and send them towards, how about Mikey? So Mikey's got no choice but to block. He will block with Chrome Dome and definitely not a turtle. He'll block with that one as well. And Warrior of Light and the hero have lifelink. So Warrior of Light's going to be gaining 8 and 7, 15 life. So when definitely not a turtle dies, we get to look at the top 6 cards of our library and reveal land or turtle card from among them and put them into our hand. So we've got Soul Ring, Transdimensional Bovine, Forest, the Cryptic Thing, Forest, Thornwood. So we got no legendary turtles, so we're going to have to go with a land. So let's go with Thornwood Falls. On the end step, the Reaper Scythe is going to get 2 tokens for each player that lost life, and that was 2 players. And we will be passing the turn to Toph, who will draw into Kyoshi Village and Lifelong Friendship. So we're going to play the Kyoshi Village. It comes into play tapped. Then we're going to tap a white and a green for Lifelong Friendship. We're going to look for a creature card, reveal it, put it into our hand. We're going to look for Boomy Unleashed. Scratch that. We're going to look for Badger Mole instead. No, we'll do Boomy. I don't know whether I want extra to combat or trample. We're going to go for the extra combat. So we're tapping the Banyan for 2 green, and we gain 2 life. And we're going to tap Forest, Plains, and Thriving Heath for a red. We're going to bring out Boomy Unleashed. When he enters, we're going to Earthbend 4. So thanks to Solid Ground, it's 5. Boomy is an ally, so Wartime Protesters will give it +1. That'll be 2 +1 counters because of Solid Ground. And because he's a non-token creature and he entered, we're going to put a +1 counter, so 2 of them because of Solid Ground. And we're going to draw a card. I changed the land that I Earthbend because that one's not tapped. So we're going to go to combat. So I think we're going to send Boomy and the Thriving Grove at Michelangelo. And we're going to send the Forest at the Warrior of Light. You know what? We'll also send the... just the Forest for now. So I think the Warrior of Light will block with Hero Token. Michelangelo has the option to block only Boomy or block Boomy and Thriving Grove. So we'll block the Thriving Grove with Mondo Gecko. And maybe he'll take the damage from Boomy. Oh, shoot. No, he'll block with Mikey. So he'll only take 6 damage from Boomy. So because Boomy dealt combat damage, we're going to untap all our lands. And there's an additional combat phase, but they have Vigilance. So for our second combat, we're going to attack the Warrior of Light with both the Thriving Grove and the Forest. Warrior of Light will block with... We'll block the one Forest with a hero. And they'll take 10 damage from the other from the Thriving Grove. Then Toph will tap 4 lands, one being a green, to bring in the Boulder. And we'll pass the turn to Mikey, who will draw 2 cards, getting 2 lands. We'll play those 2 lands. Let's look at the top card. Party Dude, so it's not what we're looking for here. Uh-oh, this is all we got in our hand. So Mikey and Don are not doing well. We'll tap Donnie to put 3 counters on the hedge spots. Let's tap 3 lands to equip the Bespoke Bow to Mondo Gecko. We're going to pay 1. We're going to pay 1 to cast Sewer Valence Scam, and we're going to tap Vivi. We're going to pay 1 to use Mondo Gecko's ability. We're going to discard a card. We're going to discard Mona Lisa. And he's going to become white and gains hexproof from the color white. So we'll go to combat. Mondo Gecko will attack Warrior of Light. Can't be blocked, so he will be doing 4 damage. And on damage, we get to draw 3 cards. 1 because Mondo Gecko is white now. Donatello's blue. Mikey and Don is blue and green. High score is green, yada yada. So we're going to draw into Donatello Way with Machines, Return to the Sewers, and Party Dude. I think we're going to tap 3 for Donatello Way with Machines. And we're going to hold there. We could cast Return to the Sewers and get rid of a creature, but Boomy is dangerous. Warrior of Light is dangerous. They're both dangerous. So I don't know who to pick right now. I would basically have them pit against each other and see what happens. So we're going to pass the turn to... with high score, Henchbot should have gotten another counter. Yeah, we're going to pass the turn to Warrior of Light, which will draw into Insomnia and a Swamp. And they'll play that for their lands on their turn. Insomnia coming into play tapped. I think what we're going to do is we're going to use Vivi's ability to give us 4 red. And we're going to cast the Regalia. It's a non-creature spell, so Vivi gets a +1 counter, and we do 1 damage to Toph and Mikey. Then we will tap a black and 2 others to cast Dark Knight's Greatsword. So it's got Job Select. That will trigger Vivi, and we'll do damage again to the other 2 and get a +1 counter. We're going to tap 6 mana, and we're going to attach the Bard's Bow to Warrior of Light. I think we're going to go to combat, and we're going to tap Warrior of Light, the hero, Vivi, and we're going to crew the Regalia with the Weapons Vendor. Or no, we'll crew the Regalia with the hero. So we're going to pay 1, and we're going to attach the Red Mage's Rapier to... no, we're going to do the Astrologian's Planisphere and attach that to the Warrior of Light. And yeah, I know I should have crewed the Regalia before combat, so it's a mistake I make sometimes. But let's go to attacks. We will attack... Well, to totally finish, we could take out Mikey and Don, but then we'd be open. So let's attack Toph. So Toph is going to tap our Plains, the Forest, and Thriving Grove. 1 for a white to cast Ankh Shelter. So until next turn, life total can't change, and you get protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. So it looks like Warrior of Light will be doing no damage. And we'll go to the end step. The Reaper Scythe will gain 2 tokens. Because Mikey and Toph did lose life during the turn. It's at this point here where I'm not sure. I don't think the Warrior of Light would have gained life, because I'm not sure if it did damage, since we've got protection. So does it still do the damage? I'm going to have to look that up and find out afterwards. Somebody else wants to leave a comment and tell me yes or no, then great. So we're going to pass the turn to Toph, and we're going to draw into Bosco, just a bear, and a forest. We're going to play our forest. And then we're going to tap 2 forests, 2 plains, and the banyan tree. So we will get 2 green and gain 2 life. And we will cast Flopsy, Boomy's buddy. So when it enters, we're going to put a +1 counter on each creature we control, and each creature we control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So we will go to combat. Everybody got 2 +1 counters. Oh, actually, Flopsy should have gotten 4 for the Great Henge and Solid Ground, and then when he entered, the +1 counter and Solid Ground. So we are going to attack. We're going to send... You know what? We're going to send Boomy and both forests at, how about Boomy, Toph, the boulder, Boomy, Toph, and the boulder at the Warrior of Light, and we're going to send the Thriving Grove and the forest at You know what? We're going to send it all at the Warrior of Light. And on attack, the boulder will trigger, and he he will Earthbend X, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 creatures. So he will Earthbend 7, but thanks to Solid Ground, it'll get an extra +1 counter. So Warrior of Light has only the Weapons Vendor to block with. And even if you blocked Boomy, or even if you blocked the Forest with the double strike, the biggest one there, still taking 11, 18, 24, 24 plus 30, 30 plus double strike on the Thriving Rove, so 44, and the Earthbending Student, so 47 damage. And that's blocking the Forest, the 10/10 Forest. So it looks like the Warrior of Light is out. So now we have a second combat step because Boomy did damage. And we're going to attack with our lands only because that's what it says. They have Vigilance, and we will be attacking Mikey and Don. So the only way for Mikey and Don to survive is by blocking with all 3 of their leftover creatures. The Henchbots, Donatello away with Machines, and Mikey and Don, and hope to draw into some kind of board wipe or something. So we'll pass the turn to Mikey and Don, who will untap, upkeep, and draw into the Ooze and Donatello's Science Lesson. Let's tap 4, 1 being a blue, and we're going to sacrifice the Sewer Valence Cam and draw 2 cards. We'll draw into Michelangelo, Weirdness to 11, and an island. We can tap 4 for Return to the Sewers, getting rid of Boomy, but that's not going to be enough. We'll tap 3 more for Donatello's Science Lesson, hoping to draw into something. So we'll tap 2 creatures. Let's tap their forests. And up to 2 target players draw a card. We're just going to draw a card. So we're going to draw into a Vibrant Cityscape. That's not going to be enough. So it looks to me we could bring out Michelangelo, Weirdness to 11 for another blocker. That'll leave us with 3. But Toph still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures I can attack with. And we won't be able to block all of it. So when we pass the turn to Toph, Toph will draw into Boomy and the Humble Defector. We're going to recast Boomy. We will Earthbend one of our unearthbent lands. When Boomy comes in, we'll have the Buy-in Tree trigger and Solid Ground, as well as the Wartime Protesters trigger and Solid Ground. So I'll tap these 3, 1 for a red, plus those 2 from the Banyan Tree, and gain 2 life. Boomy gets his counters. I will also Earthbend. We'll Earthbend that Plains for 5. And we'll just do a sweeping attack, and that'll take care of Donatello. Or, not Donatello. It'll take care of both Mikey and Don. Well, it looks like Toph won the round this time. That was a pretty good practice. Everybody kind of got to do something. Except the Warrior of Light was kind of lacking at the beginning there. The land kind of sucked. But eventually it came around. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.